New revelations about the intruder who jumped a fence and made it into the White House. Jury selection begins in the capital murder trial of a Bryan man accused of killing an 18-year-old over drugs. These stories and more right now on News 3 at noon.
Now, live on KBTX, the Brazos Valley's news leader. This is News 3 at noon.
The Secret Service is conducting an investigation to find out how a man with a knife was able to jump the fence at the White House and run through the building before being stopped. But some in Congress are pushing ahead with their own investigation and have called the director of the agency to Capitol Hill to testify. Craig Boswell is on the Hill as well with more details.
Secret Service Director Julia Pearson is on Capitol Hill to explain to Congress how an intruder made it into the White House.
This is unacceptable, and I take full responsibility, and I will make sure that it does not happen again.
On September 19th, Omar Gonzalez scaled the White House fence and ran.
Director Pearson says the Secret Service has apprehended 16 people jumping the fence at the White House over the last 5 years, including 6 this year alone. The CDC is expected to release preliminary test results today for a patient in a Dallas hospital showing signs of Ebola. Hospital officials at Texas Health Presbyterian say they're following recommendations by federal health officials to keep doctors, staff, and patients safe. The patient is said to have recently traveled to West Africa. An outbreak in the region has killed more than 3,000 people. We'll have more news in just a moment, but first, here's Natalie for a little bit of weather on the last day of September. It's looking pretty good this week.
I know, it definitely doesn't even feel like we're in fall because we're looking at warm, humid conditions, temperatures warming up into the 90s, and that's a trend that's going to stick around through about the middle of the week. However, cold front on the way. We'll have those details coming up a little bit later in full weather. Clay?
Thank you, Natalie. Jury selection began today in the capital murder trial of a Bryan man accused of killing an 18-year-old over drugs. If found guilty, Eugene Jenkins would get life in prison without the possibility of parole. Last year, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 30 years in prison, but the 41-year-old successfully petitioned for his plea to be revoked and for a new trial. He claimed he had been given bad legal advice. Police say Jenkins and Clifton Montgomery Jr. went to Raymond Cavazos' apartment in December 2011, shooting and killing the known drug dealer. Montgomery was found guilty of capital murder last year. Like Jenkins, prosecutors did not seek the death penalty, so Montgomery was sentenced to life in prison without parole. An alleged drunk driver is in police custody after crashing into a sign at the Valero gas station in Bryan. It happened shortly after 10 last night near 29th and Taro, just down the street from our News 3 studios. Bryan police say 20-year-old Christopher Willis was headed north on 29th when he drove off the road, went through the grass and hit a light fixture before slamming into a sign in front of the gas pumps. He was given a field sobriety test at the scene before being handcuffed and arrested for DWI. No one else was hurt. Bryan College Station is known for having beautiful parks with great playgrounds to entertain the youngest residents. Here's a look at a new playground that's in the works, one that will be the first of its kind in our area. It's the Fun for All playground, and when it's completed, it will be an inclusive playground for children with special needs. The people working on this project are looking for community input. A meeting will be held tonight at the Southwood Community Center on Rock Prairie Road in College Station from 6:30 to 8. After tonight, the next meeting will be held on October 28th. The state senators vying to be the next lieutenant governor of Texas squared off in a debate last night in Austin. Houston Republican Dan Patrick and Democrat Letitia Vandepute of San Antonio went back and forth over tax immigration and policy. Vandepute attacked Patrick for supporting a sales tax increase and failing to release his personal tax returns. Patrick is pushing for lower property taxes. This is the only debate between the two candidates before the November 4th election. A Houston doctor will spend a decade in prison after she was convicted of poisoning a colleague and a former lover by lacing his coffee with a chemical found in antifreeze. Dr. Ana Maria Gonzalez Angulo was a breast cancer doctor based at the Texas Medical Center and has been involved in a relationship with fellow researcher Dr. George Blumenschien. Prosecutors said she poisoned Blumenschien after he tried to end the relationship. Blumenschien survived the poisoning. An American Airlines flight leaving Dallas had to double back after a problem with its landing gear. The pilot had to make an emergency landing at DFW Airport yesterday evening. The plane had been scheduled for a 5-hour flight from Dallas to Baltimore. Instead, the jet circled for 3 hours, burning off excess fuel, according to FlightAware.com, before attempting to land. The plane was left parked on the runway, and buses drove the flight's 140 passengers back to the terminal.